When did your partner start pulling away from you? Not after a fight, not after betrayal, not after you stopped caring. It happened after you started caring more than before. After your girlfriend replied slower than usual. After your boyfriend felt less present. After your wife became quieter, shorter, harder to read. That's when you changed. You sent the extra message. You checked in to see if everything was still okay. You explained your intentions before they were questioned. You became more available to your partner. You adjusted your time. You softened your tone. You tried to be more understanding. You told yourself this was love. This was effort. This was what a good partner does. But something shifted the moment you started trying to hold the relationship together. The first time you asked your partner, "Are we okay?" attraction had already weakened. The first time you changed your behavior to avoid distance, your partner felt it. Love didn't ask you to prove anything. Fear did. Fear of losing your partner. Fear of the relationship slipping. Fear of not being wanted the same way. Nothing ended immediately. Your partner didn't leave. They didn't accuse you. They just felt different around you. Less tension, less pull, less desire. And the more you tried to fix that feeling with effort, the clearer the imbalance became. Not because you loved too little, but because your effort carried the question your partner felt instantly. Are you afraid of losing me? That question changed the relationship before either of you talked about it.
Your partner didn't sit down and decide to want you less. They didn't weigh your effort and choose distance. The shift happened automatically. Attraction inside a relationship is not built on promises. It is built on how your behavior holds up when the dynamic changes. When you were steady, your partner experienced you as grounded. Your presence felt chosen, not necessary. Your availability felt natural, not responsive. Once effort increased after tension appeared, the meaning changed. The same actions now carried a different signal. More messages no longer felt warm, they felt corrective. More explanations no longer felt honest, they felt preemptive. More presence no longer felt intentional, it felt like reassurance seeking. Your partner didn't interpret this emotionally, they interpreted it structurally. Your behavior began orbiting the relationship, not your own center. Attraction responds to independence of behavior, not distance, not closeness, independence. When your actions stand on their own, your partner experiences safety without pressure. When your actions adjust to prevent loss, your partner feels expectation, even if none is spoken. Expectation creates weight. Weight creates resistance. This is why your partner felt the change before you could explain it. You didn't say you were afraid. You didn't admit insecurity. Your behavior communicated it. The increased effort signaled that the relationship was no longer stable enough to support itself, not because it was failing, but because you treated it as if it might. Your partner didn't pull away from your care. They pulled away from what your care began to imply, that you were no longer choosing the relationship freely, you were trying to keep it. And the moment effort is used to secure connection, attraction stops moving toward it. It starts moving away. At some point, trying stopped being invisible. That's when your partner began to feel it. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't demand reassurance. You didn't accuse. You just started doing more. More checking in. More asking how they felt. More making sure they were okay. You thought this was being attentive, but attention driven by fear does not feel like care. It feels like monitoring. Your partner began to feel watched instead of met. responded to instead of chosen. Presence became pressure, not because you were overwhelming, but because your availability now carried expectation. A reply was no longer just a reply, it was confirmation. A delay was no longer neutral, it created tension. Your partner felt that tension, even if you never named it. This is where trying backfires. When you increase effort to stabilize the relationship, you turn connection into something that must be managed. Love doesn't thrive under management. Attraction doesn't grow under supervision. Calm availability feels open. Increased availability after uncertainty feels urgent. Urgency is the signal. Your partner didn't feel you wanting them. They felt you needing the situation to improve. And need, no matter how quiet, changes the dynamic. You didn't pressure them with words. You pressured them with adjustment. Your tone softened. Your pace shifted. Your behavior adapted. And adaptation communicates that something is wrong, not with them, with the stability of the relationship. This is why your partner started pulling back, even though you were being better. They weren't reacting to effort. They were responding to the pressure effort created when it arrived too late. Trying harder didn't make you a better partner. It made the relationship feel heavier, and attraction always moves away from weight. Your partner was never attracted to how hard you tried. They were attracted to the structure you brought into the relationship. Structure is not distance. It is not coldness. It is not games. Structure is constraint. Constraint is what gives love shape. When you had your own pace, your partner could feel where you ended and where they began. When you didn't immediately adjust to every mood shift, your presence felt solid, not unavailable, unmoved. That's what attraction responds to. Effort, when introduced under pressure, dissolves constraint. It removes edges. It softens limits. It makes everything available all the time. And availability without limits feels heavy. Your partner didn't want less of you. They wanted you to remain intact. Constraint creates polarity. Polarity creates tension. Tension keeps desire alive. When you increased effort to protect the relationship, you removed the very thing holding attraction in place. You closed the gaps that allowed curiosity to exist. You filled the silence that allowed tension to breathe. You smoothed over moments that were meant to stand. In work, effort compounds value. In love, effort without constraint collapses it. That's why logic fails here. The same effort that builds trust in a career creates pressure in a relationship. Because attraction is not impressed by output, it is oriented by boundaries. Your partner felt safest with you when your behavior didn't bend to keep them close, when you had standards you didn't negotiate, when you had a rhythm you didn't abandon, when your presence didn't need to be confirmed. Effort says, I'm trying to hold this together. Constraint says, this holds on its own. Your partner didn't lose desire because you cared too much. They lost it because the relationship stopped having resistance. Everything became reachable. Nothing required space. And without space, attraction suffocates. Not dramatically, quietly. This is why trying harder never restores attraction, because attraction doesn't grow from effort. It grows from the quiet pressure created by the limits you refuse to remove, even when love is at risk. Good partners don't lose attraction because they do something wrong. They lose it because they apply the wrong logic. They believe love works like responsibility, like commitment, like fairness. So when something feels off, they respond by doing more understanding, more patience, more effort. They assume effort is proof of value. But attraction does not evaluate value morally. It evaluates behavior under pressure. This is where good partners fail. They interpret distance as a problem to solve. They interpret tension as something to smooth out. They interpret uncertainty as something effort can fix. So they lean in, not aggressively, not desperately, politely, quietly, consistently. And that consistency becomes the signal, not of devotion, but of fear of loss. Good partners are trained to believe that care should increase when something matters. Attraction works in the opposite direction. The moment effort is driven by preservation, it stops being attractive, because preservation implies fragility. Your partner didn't lose desire because you were kind. They lost it because your kindness arrived after stability was already in question. Good partners don't withdraw when things get uncertain. They double down, and doubling down is exactly what reveals that the relationship is no longer self-sustaining. This is why the most considerate people often experience the most confusing rejection. They did everything right. They communicated. They showed up. They tried. But attraction doesn't respond to effort meant to hold things together. It responds to behavior that doesn't change just because something might be lost. Good partners lose here because they try to save something that only survives when it doesn't need saving. Attraction doesn't disappear the moment effort increases. It repositions. Your partner doesn't wake up wanting you less. They don't make a decision. They don't explain it to themselves. They just feel different. Before, desire felt natural, effortless, unforced. After effort increased, desire became conditional. Not gone, just quieter. They still talk to you. They still show up. They still stay in the relationship. But something subtle changes. Your partner stops leaning forward. They stop initiating as often. They stop feeling pulled toward you. Not because you did something offensive, but because the dynamic shifted. Attraction reads effort under pressure as a sign that the relationship is being held together manually. And once something feels manually maintained, desire relaxes. It doesn't fight. It doesn't resist. It settles. Your partner feels safe, but less curious, comfortable, but less drawn. The relationship continues, but the tension that created attraction dissolves. This is why many relationships don't end after effort spikes. They flatten. There's no explosion, no betrayal, no clear reason, just a gradual lowering of intensity. What once felt chosen now feels expected. What once felt alive now feels familiar. Attraction didn't punish your effort. It simply adjusted to what your behavior began signaling, that the relationship no longer needed tension to survive. And attraction cannot exist long-term in a system where everything is already secured. Once attraction recalibrates downward, it rarely returns through more effort, because effort was never what created it. It was the structure that existed before effort tried to replace it.
Trying harder didn't make you more attractive. It made you more readable. Readable behavior removes tension. Tension is where attraction lives. The moment your partner could predict how you would respond to distance, attraction lost its leverage. Not because you were weak, not because you cared too much, but because your behavior began explaining itself. Attraction does not follow effort. It follows constraint. Constraint is what keeps desire oriented. It creates space without withdrawal, presence without pressure. When you tried to secure the relationship, you removed that space. You made everything available. You smoothed every edge. You closed every gap. And in doing so,
You answered a question attraction needs left unanswered. You proved the relationship could survive without tension. Once that proof exists, attraction no longer needs to stay alert. It relaxes, it steps back, it lowers its investment. This is the rule most people never learn because it feels unfair. Effort is rewarded everywhere else in life, but in attraction, effort aimed at preservation signals fragility. Trying harder doesn't create desire, it reveals fear of losing it. And once fear becomes visible through behavior, attraction doesn't argue, it adjusts quietly.